my topic today, because I've had different reasons to choose this topic, because this is my 6th year as chief editor of International Journal of Consumer Studies. So last 5+ years, I've been waking up with manuscripts on my laptop, on the portal, on the journal portal, and sleeping with the manuscripts. And what I'm trying to say is that it is 24 hours filled with the screening manuscripts. That's what I've been doing. So and plus, before that, 15 years prior to my taking over as journal chief editor, I have had a very immersive experience in research as an author or as a co-author, or also served as an associate editor of a couple of other journals, including Journal of Business Research, European Management Journal, and so on, European Management Review, and so on. So with that kind of experience, I think my background helped me to articulate ideas on what to do and what not to do when it comes to publications. And I published this article, which I shared with you, publishing in premier journals with a high impact factor and Q1 journals, do's and don'ts, based on my extensive experience as an author and as an editor. So when I started, I would like to go back to my own research career. Yesterday I was chatting with Laura Sophia and Jenny too, and I was trying to recall what how my career shaped, or even how research can shape your career or anyone's career. I'm not sure how many PhD students are attending this session online. Suppose in case if a PhD student or even an assistant professor understand all these things in a comprehensive way, they would be able to better work with goal orientation and try to transform their academic career as more prospectors in different ways. Why I'm telling you that initially, when we do PhD or when we try to write our research paper, when paper doesn't take proper shape or perfect shape, we all get disappointed. And even I was very disappointed when I was writing my PhD dissertation. And I was also not sure, because sometimes supervisors forget to tell us about the prospects in academia. Sometimes they also, and students or even junior researchers think that a lot of research is subject to a lot of problems, a lot of rejections. And why do we do this kind of things when we are going to get rejections and rejections? So, but I would also like to tell you, I would also like to talk about positive and negative aspects of academic career based on research as well as teaching, because research publications can take you all over the world, and there are a lot of opportunities in the world academia for people, those who publish, and the catchphrase these days is publish and prosper. So on the other side, there's also a buzzword, there's a kind of catchphrase is publish or perish. So, if you are publishing, you have a lot of prospects. At the same time, if you are not publishing, so, you have your chances of perishing your academy. But you don't have to perish, suppose if you have and I myself know about many ordinary people who have published and then they have good jobs in different countries, including the US, including European universities and Asian universities. They have very recognizable career based on their publications. The publications will get you to those kind of places. Otherwise, suppose in case if you're doing PhD and then you think that this is not really good for me, many people end up as ordinary assistant managers or ordinary sales boys or sales girls and sales managers in some company. Academic career is much more interesting and much more promising compared to many jobs in different companies or many jobs in different shops and many other jobs in different parts of the world, because we have a lot of freedom, we have a lot of flexibility, we have a lot of opportunities to travel all around the world. And I've myself been to 100 plus countries as an invited speaker, and a lot of opportunities for you to shape your career and and establish you as a successful professor. Even Nobel Prize can wait for you. So what I'm trying to say is that academicians have a lot of opportunities provided we work very hard and understand the nuts and bolts of research and publications. So my talk today is also based on my article on publishing in premier journals. So initially, I would like to give you about what specific aspects journals are looking at. It is not only our journal, but also in most of the journals, what they are interested in considering articles that are relatively perfect compared to near perfectness or compared. I can also talk about 3 dimensions in an article. So specifically, my talk today is going to be like a capsule. So capsule, and suppose if you are bothered about or you're concerned about your health and you go to a medical doctor will give you this prescription, so you take this capsule for next 1 month. And you can recover from or you can be more healthy and those kind of things. So I do have certain set of capsules for you. Sometimes medical doctors give you prescription, you take those capsules for 1 month and you become more healthy. The same way, there's a chance that you become more healthy in terms of research and publications as a researcher after attending the session, but not necessary that all medical doctors' prescriptions are helping all the patients. Okay, so sometimes subject to your some of the hereditary factors. Suppose in case, let's say somebody is diabetic in their family, and that diabetic history in the family is also one of the factors determining your own sugar level and a lot of things like that. So the same way, suppose if you have there are due to different issues. Sometimes even if you try to implement this, your paper can get rejected. Sometimes it is not your problem. It can also be problem of editors, because as an author, I have experience. Even as an editor, when I look at the associate editors who work with me or in some other journal, sometimes I feel that some editors reject papers to reduce their workload, because it is not an easy task. It is not an easy task to serve as an editor or an associate editor, because many times reviewers are not agreeing to review papers. When an editor or an associate editor is sending a paper to reviewers, and sometimes they have to send papers to 30 people to get 2 or 3 of them review. So when they send a paper and many people do not agree to review or decline the invitation to review in order to reduce their workload, many editors reject paper. I'm sharing my experience as an author. So many times my own papers got rejected. I feel that this is one of the reasons. So it is also reality. So that's not my main point for today's discussion, but why I'm trying to say that never get disappointed, never get frustrated if your paper gets rejected from a journal. Sometimes it is your mistake, sometimes it is their mistake. Okay, so that way, don't always think that it is your mistake. Sometimes, I repeat, sometimes it is their problem, because they are overloaded. When they are overloaded, it is like when you apply for a job. Sometimes even if you are very competent, knowledgeable and deserving, you need not get an interview call, because they are getting 500 applications or they are getting 50 applications. They want to hire only 1 person or 2 persons. So they will also desk reject some of the candidates, some of the CVs. So it's also reality that way. So this is the first point that I would like to talk about it, and then I can go on to specific points and then discuss about these specific points. Am I audible to you? Okay. So my English is okay, or ¿tú quieres español? Because yo no hablo mucho español, But poco poco, okay. Okay, so yeah, so this article I have shared with you, right? So I'm not sure whether you have had the chance to go through, but in case if you want to master, try to go through the article so that you can also get details about the trends and what is expected and what kind of strategies that you can follow and how to minimize the probability of rejections. So how many of you are doing PhD? Can you raise your hand, because just trying to get to your level. Two PhD. Everybody else has PhD, right?
And the ones that are online. Yes.
Online.
PhD students.
Are they able to hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the base article for my talk. Yeah, this is a certificate. Why I show this certificate is that I want to motivate the PhD student to get into this kind of status, because this will help you to have a more recognition all over the world. After I received this, when I shared it on my LinkedIn, I received an invitation from Korea, I received an invitation from Poland, I received an invitation from a US university and all. So you get a lot of recognition if you are a highly cited researcher. And yeah, so this is about our journal. It's a 50-year-old journal with a Q1 rank on Web of Science, and we have an annual special issue for literature review articles, and deadline is 15th May. In case if you have a systematic literature review, submit for a special issue. Otherwise, also you're welcome to submit to regular issues. And yeah, I'm also having expertise in systematic literature reviews. This is another article which I co-authored with Jane from Australia on developing classic systematic literature reviews to advance knowledge do's and don'ts. It's published in European Management Journal. Suppose in case if we're working on systematic literature review, this will be helpful for you. And why I'm talking about literature reviews also is because my background and the number of years or number of months I have spent to work on systematic literature reviews, that has been too much, that is much more than most of the others in the field. And I have been able to edit some of the special issues for different journals in the area of systematic literature reviews that include International Business Review, Journal of Business Research, European Management Journal, European Management Review, and so on. So this is another article on art of writing literature review. What do we know and what do we need to know? This is co-authored by Alex Rialp, who is new dean of Autónoma University in Barcelona. And yeah, so now coming back to today's main topic, publishing in different premier journals, what to do and what not to do. My first point is try to follow a generalized approach in your title, in your introduction, and in your article. Some of the journals prefer to accept papers that are likely to be downloaded by people in different countries or people across the countries. They want to accept articles that are likely to be downloaded and cited by maximum people. That requires some generalized insights or generalized contribution in your paper. For example, you might be doing, let's say, an empirical study. Empirical study, the data can be based on Oviedo, or it can be based on Spain, España. However, the way that you write, you need to present it with some generalized insights. What others can, suppose if somebody downloads your article, somebody reads your paper, what do they actually learn from your paper? So that requires some generalization. That requires focusing on your topic rather than giving too much focus on your data context. So, for example, you can focus on your model, you can focus on your topic's importance, or contemporary relevance of your topic. Suppose if there is a theoretical application, focus on those kind of things. So your introduction, your conclusion, your discussion sections, all those, your title, your introduction, your discussion and your conclusion section should be focusing on your generalized insights, which is your topic's importance, what is original in your work, whether there is any theoretical model or theoretical applications or generalization, because theory or model comes from generalization. Because people in other countries will download your paper only if there is some generalized insights or generalized takeaway for them from your paper. So there are two ways of writing a paper. For example, when you write a paper, let's say service quality or brand equity of, let's say, put it this way, brand equity of Spanish luxury brands or something like that, estimating brand equity for luxury brands from Spain, so, or luxury brands from Asturias or Oviedo. So instead of, let's say, that region name or country name can be in title, but if you do that, only people from, or even your introduction, conclusion, everything is too much focused on a region, everything is too much focused on a province or state. So people from your region, your country, will be happy to read and download those kind of papers, no doubt. But if you want to attract people from China, people from Japan, people from South Korea, people from North America, like Canada, to download and read your paper, there has to be some generalization. So your paper, that requires a diplomatic approach. What is diplomatic approach? So the way you can write the paper, this is the art of writing in a generalized way. So for example, in the introduction, you start with highlighting the contemporary relevance of your topic and then pitch for what is original in your paper, rather than just doing a paper with a goal setting of analyzing the service quality of hotels in Oviedo or hotels in España, or estimating the brand equity of premier brands from north of Spain or Spain. So instead of focusing that kind of data analysis based on a regional thing, try to give a broad title, try to give a broad perspective, focusing on the relevance of your topic and the research gaps, and then come out within the discussion and conclusion, come out with the generalized intakes in a more generalized way, so that others will also, and do not include your title or regional name, the country name or title, country or local district or local province name in the title. Title need to be generalized. If title is generalized, you get download from all over the world. If people do not download your paper, you will never get citations. Okay. So download is the first step towards citations. So you need to, so journals, see all these publishers, I'll tell you an experience sharing. Publishers are also doing business. I'm not supposed to do that when you are recording, but maybe we'll be having lunch, we can talk this. So they are also interested in downloads and citations and everything. So that way, editors are also looking at that way. Many editors, some of them may not be looking at, but most of the majority of them may be looking at it, and then you need to have a, but otherwise, suppose if you're writing a local, completely local paper, it is okay for Spanish Journal of Marketing, so which is more like a regional journal. So, but if you really want to get into Journal of Business Research or something, some journals which are, acceptable everywhere in the world, you need to have more recognition. More global perspectives or more generalized way of writing. So follow generalized approach. And the second point is, I mentioned as 18 do's, so 18 capsules. So second point is the flow dimension. Every paper has 3 dimensions: conceptual dimension, presentation dimension, and analytical dimension. Whether I'm writing an empirical paper, or I'm writing a paper with mixed method, or I'm writing a systematic literature review, or I'm writing a qualitative paper, it doesn't matter. I have to ensure 3 contributions. One is presentation dimension based on flow of paper. Second is conceptual contribution based on, again, conceptual contribution is also linked to generalization. And the third part is analytical dimension. A paper needs to be refined with reference to these three dimensions. I repeat, starting with the presentation dimension. Presentation dimension is nothing but the flow of your paper from abstract to conclusion. That is also a function of how well I can write a paper, or how it's also depending upon our language skills, and the presentation dimension. Again, conceptual dimension is not based on your language skills, but the presentation dimension is also based on your language skills. But these days there are tools like ChatGPT, Grammarly. You can even integrate Grammarly onto your laptop. If Grammarly will correct everything automatically these days. So I have done Grammarly into my laptop. All documents, whenever I open, Grammarly correct me automatically. So what I'm trying to say is that these days all those kind of tools are helpful for you to ensure presentation dimension of your, improve the quality of your presentation, the flow. So the flow of your paper is very important. Suppose if your paper is not flowing from paragraph 1, suppose let's say you have 50 paragraphs in your paper. Paragraph 1 to 50, when somebody goes through, it has to flow like water in a river. Have you done river tour in Amsterdam? I have done it. I have done in Istanbul too, river tour. Have you been to all these places? They have beautiful rivers. Or even in Paris, they have beautiful river. So you do a boat tour in a river, and water is flowing slowly, right? And water never stops in a river. Have you done in Tokyo? I have done river tour in Tokyo too. So do some river tours in any of these cities, and the water flows, or river or backwater. So some places it is called as backwater tour, and even in Venice. We have been to, so Spain is not far from Venice, right? So have you been to Venice? Venice Canal Tour. Some places it is called as canal tour, some places it is called as, backwater, some places it is called as river. So all three are similar. So the water never stops in a canal, so it flows. Your paper has to also flow like water in a canal. Okay, so that requires refining the paper. That requires you read yourself. You read your own paper 3 times and refine it like a diamond. Suppose if I write a paper, even if I'm an expert, if I'm tired, my paper will not be perfect. So what I have to do is that I have to sleep well tonight, wake up tomorrow, or when I have more free time, I have to work on it again. So that is important. Even if I'm a Nobel Prize winner, if I try to write a paper, when I am tired, it will never become perfect. So it is important to have a recheck on your own paper, so that you can improve your paper in a better way and ensure flow of your paper. This is very important. And the next point is originality of your study. So when we look at some journals, some papers are published even if they are recycled. The papers are on recycled topic or repeat topic, but many papers, many journals prefer to publish articles, original articles, which means that there is some original contribution. So 80% or 70% papers published have some degree of originality. However, about 30% or 25% papers in almost every journal is published, even if it is not original, even if it is on recycled topics, it gets published. So this is also reality. But try to think about what is original in your study. Is there something original in my study? Even suppose you are supervising a PhD student, or PhD students are taking up their topic, look at whether there is something original. if it is a 100% carbon copy of somebody else's work, there is nothing original. So try to bring something original. I mean, if you have to do some original work as a PhD student, it will take time, but your chances of publication is relatively high when you have something original. So originality is important in publication, and originality when journal runs the manuscript on the similarity software, or even if you have university software to check similarity percentage. So if similarity is less, that is an indicator that there is some original work in your paper. So, and the uniqueness of your study, next point is uniqueness. Have you heard about USP? USP español, ¿qué estás? So, yo no sé. USP, unique selling proposition. Español, ¿qué estás?
Proposición única de venta.
Okay.
Proposición única de venta.
So, your paper need to have some unique selling proposition, ideally to get accepted in a well-regarded journal. This is important because I mean, majority of the papers that get accepted has a unique selling proposition. However, as I said before, there are some papers without this uniqueness and all also get accepted due to whatever, there are so many reasons. Also, sometimes it happens. So, because sometimes many of the papers, some of the papers, even in Journal of Marketing, even in those kind of journals, are published by their own associate editors. There is insider trading in the field too. So what I'm trying to say is that, so that way you cannot say that all papers accepted in all these top journals are with unique ideas and unique and originality. It is not necessary. When we closely observe, I see that 25% papers are published by editorial board members. So, so that way, but 75% is in the in the merit category. So that way we have to compete for that 75% as well. So, so uniqueness and originality are also important. And plagiarism check, uniqueness. So I can tell you about the USP. For example, Uber. Uber made millions. Why? You think Uber made millions because of USP? Uber was a first mover. Uber was a first mover too in the ride sharing platform before others entered into that segment. So Uber had a USP, unique selling proposition. Apple, this apple, you know, there are two apples. One is this apple and the other one is apple that we eat. So this apple, when they introduced this, they had a USP. That USP had them to make millions. So if you can position something with a unique idea or unique model, unique proposition, you know, you have a most probably, but sometimes there also you can fail, but most probably your paper will get accepted. And the next point is do plagiarism check. Plagiarism check is important. Suppose in case, you know, plagiarism, the thumb rule, there is no legal rule with regard to plagiarism, but the thumb rule is that single source similarity should not exceed more than 5% and the overall similarity should not exceed more than 25%. That is the thumb rule. So sometimes your paper has 10% from another paper. It is not a good idea. So even if your paper overall similarity may be 15%, but 10% is copied from one single source, that is not a good idea. So, so similarity check, but in almost all journals, I'll tell you about, you know, last 5.5 years I've been handling, like when I started this job as editor-in-chief, first year we received about 575. I mean, just before I took over, it was 575, and then in my first year, our journal had about 670, 680 submissions, and then it went up to 1,200, and then last year we had about 2,600 submissions. So, so that means I've had a chance to, in about 5 years' time, I've had a chance to go through about 10,000 papers in IJCS itself, and then I've handled about 500 submissions for Journal of Business Research as an associate editor, and about 1,000 plus submissions for other journals as an associate editor wherever I worked. So when I look at all these total manuscripts that I've had opportunity to go through, I find that overall 10% of submissions in all journals are plagiarized. Because people are people everywhere. It doesn't matter whether you are from China, whether you are from France, whether you are from Germany, whether you are from the US, 10% people are always copy and paste. I mean, on an average. Yeah, so this is, this is the case. And even I have seen people from Australia also submit plagiarized papers. So it's not it's not specific to any country. It's people's habits. Some people so when they are desperate to publish, they do it. When they are not desperate, they don't copy. So, yeah. So now, what are the specific do's that will help you to increase the probability of your paper acceptance? Yeah. So you need to identify target journal. So my approach, couple of I would say that last 7 years or 8 years, when I work on as an author, when I prepare a paper, when I develop a paper, even if I have a co-author, I tell the co-authors that let's prepare a list of 5 to 10 journals in the beginning. Let's prepare 5 to 10 target journals in the beginning. And ideally, you can start that based on your reference list, because ideally your reference list, suppose if a journal is included, journal is already there in a reference list, that shows that your topic is matching with that journal. So ideally, you should try to look at reference list and submit to a journal that is there in your reference list. And another point which I would like to highlight today is your paper should look like up to date. How do you ensure that your paper is up to date? How do you ensure your paper is up to date? How do you ensure your paper is up to date? Overall, suppose, so your answer is correct. So you looked at the practical angle. Overall, when you submit a paper, if all your references are outdated, let's say, when someone looks at your paper, whether it is reviewer or editor, all your paper, let's say you have Williamson 2005, or you say Rodriguez 1995, Ramirez 1998, all those ending in 1998, you don't have any reference after 1998. That itself shows that your paper is outdated, right? So sometimes it happens because PhD students or junior researchers, they copy literature review from some other paper and then they rewrite it and then they don't bother to update the references. So that way, why we do research is, what is the purpose of doing research? Can you answer? Somebody can answer the purpose of doing research. Purpose of doing research. Maybe girls lost in the last row. So I can redefine this question. So let me put it this way. We are trying to identify research gap and trying to come out with some, original contribution based on gap in the literature. So we do literature review to identify research gap. Or in other words, I can say we do literature review to see what research is already done by others and what new research can be done by us or can be done by other researchers. The purpose of literature review is to look at what is already done and based on that, what is the research gap, what can be done. If a lot of people have done the same thing, that means there is no gap for doing research on that topic or that theory or that method. So based on identification of research gap, we are supposed to do something new, something novel, something original, something pioneering, something unique. That is what is the purpose of the research. Identify research gap and try to do something original, something unique. And you can also aim for a brainchild. Most of the Nobel Prizes in all subjects are given to researchers who have produced brainchild. You know the difference between child and brainchild? So when you think about the outcome, your brain or my brain, when you think for 3 months, for example, Mundell Fleming model in finance, they got Nobel Prize for their model. So, so it is a pioneering work in finance. So same way service quality scale is a pioneering work in service marketing research. So likewise, some pioneering theory, or dynamic capability theory is a pioneering theory in strategic management. Likewise, some pioneering theoretical model or a scale or some kind of work that others would find it useful and others would try to cite or read, and such kind of pioneering work, if you can produce something like that, that is called brainchild. That is one of the purposes of original research, or why we are aiming for, what we have to aim for, or one of the purposes of we do research is also to think about having our own brainchild. It is similar to our own child, but it is different. She has 2 children, I think, right? I just saw her on WhatsApp, that's why. So what I'm trying to say is that, so you can also have brainchild in research, so that you suppose if you're known for your brainchild, like Hudson is known for theory of plant behavior. Theory of plant behavior is Hudson's brainchild. Likewise, some experts introduced technology adoption model, somebody else introduced different theories and different models and different formulas in every subject. Even in physics, Albert Einstein is known for his contribution in physics, and so some brainchild as a researcher we are supposed to develop. Like I tried to introduce a mass teach model and mass teach scale and mass teach theory. For mass teach scale is to estimate the mass prestige value of a brand, which is similar to brand equity, the concept. And likewise, I also tried to introduce 7P framework for international marketing based on performance of a company in a foreign market as a function of their path, their potential, their processes, their pace, their problems, and so 7P framework was born. So likewise, even in marketing, there is a original 4 Ps, so price, product, promotion, place, that is also a framework. Likewise, some brainchild can also come out as an outcome of your research. So anyway, so that is, I just went beyond the citations, but your paper should look like an up-to-date work. That requires you cite recent papers from different journals. You should have Rodriguez 2025 or Martinez 2024. Otherwise, your paper will look outdated. If your paper look outdated, because what happens sometimes when your paper goes to reviewer, they will not have time to read everything. But they will glance through the paper. When they glance through the paper, they can easily see whether your paper is outdated or updated. If your paper looks like up-to-date and updated, probability of getting paper accepted is high. Otherwise, it's a problem. So you can do this. As an intelligent researcher, you can look at the recent citations and recent works from different journals and include that in your paper and say that others have done so and so work in the recent past. However, they have not done this. Therefore, we identify research gaps and we develop this paper as a pioneering work. So that is how you argue and develop your paper. So, because the purpose of any research is to do something which others haven't done. And why we look at literature review or why we look at papers from different journals is also to see and to argue that a lot of people or researchers have done this, that, all this they have done. However, there is a gap for doing this research the way that we have done. So, that we are doing or we have done. Pioneering. So, there is some pioneering element in our work. So, you have to present your paper that way. And yeah, you can cite recent papers preferably from your target journals. Prepare a list of 5 journals or 10 journals. If a journal rejects your paper today, do not delay to submit to another paper. Sometimes some co-authors delay for 1 month because when a rejection comes, they get disappointed. And they don't do anything with the paper for next 1 month and 2 months. It is not a good idea. So you should submit to the next journal the next day. When you get a rejection, go for a coffee, cappuccino. Or you don't like cappuccino, have a cafe latte. Or if you don't like a cafe latte, then go for a kombucha, or something like that. And celebrate it and submit to the next journals as soon as possible, because journals can be slow. In order to beat the slow processing in journals, you have to try submissions without delay. Otherwise, entire thing goes slowly, and then 2 years are going and you are not able to publish it, and then you can get frustrated. And if you are a professor in a public university, you have a permanent job, but if you are a PhD student, they have to publish. I mean, because it is important for them to publish. And so that way, you have to understand, so that part, and then submit to the journal without delay. That is important. Because some of the journals are very slow, some of the journals are fast, some journals are slow. And also Elsevier and Wiley has a beautiful software, journal finder software on their website. Especially Elsevier has a very effective website that gives a comparative speed of all their journals matching with your topic on journal finder tool on Elsevier. So average speed and average impact factor of all the matching journal will be shown, with the average processing time each journal has taken in the past year. That trend, in most cases, they are likely to have the same trend, because some people are born with speed, some people are not born with speed. Suppose if you have an editor who is not born with speed, your paper will take 2 years' time. An editor or associate editor, whoever is handling your paper. But if your editor is a gentleman or a lady who works like a horse. There are 2 types of people, more than 2 types, but some people work like horse, some people work like tortoise. Tortoise, Espanol, ¿qué estás? I forgot. Okay, yeah. So, the next point is robustness checks. This is relating to empirical research. Usually, these days in marketing field, a lot of people have moved on to experimental studies. However, some journals still publish, cross-section studies using single survey. And in finance and other subject areas, or in economics and finance, time series data analysis is very common. Suppose if you have time series data analysis, using daily data or weekly data or those kind of data, so you need to ensure robustness checks such as multicollinearity in time series, and if you have cross-section data, robustness checks such as common method bias also need to be looked into. And the next point is get it English edited and proofread by someone else. Yeah, so if you're not confident enough, these days I tell you about Chinese. I have an invitation to go to China. I have to decide whether to go or not, because Chinese are masters in publishing these days. Chinese are masters in doing business also these days. But they are publishing more papers in all journals, in all subjects these days. But if you actually go and talk to them in English, I'm not confident whether you will be impressed. How do they publish? Tell me. They have hundreds of consultants in China. And these Chinese PhD students and professors, they are also having a lot of PhD students from diplomatically friendly countries of China. So they go to China. Chinese embassies promote PhD programs in their diplomatically friendly countries, and they get students from those countries also to do PhD. And the Chinese universities have a big budget to get it, refined by consultants. And those consultants rewrite the paper. And that is how Chinese is able to publish papers. And they are submitting thousands of papers in all journals these days. The maximum submissions come from China these days in all journals. And so that way, no harm in getting it English edited and proofread by someone else. And next point which I would like to say is that insert tables inside the text. So why I am saying is that you have tables, let's say most papers have 7 tables or 6 tables or 8 tables. If you keep the tables inside the text at relevant places, editors or associate editors or reviewers will find rigor. Otherwise, they will not find rigor. Otherwise, they will not have patience and time to go back and forth in every paper. Because if you keep the tables at the end of your paper, okay, editors or reviewers have to go back and forth from top to the bottom to even after, because a lot of people keep the tables after references. And to check every table, reviewer or editor has to go back. It's not easy. They will not do that. They will not find rigor. But if you keep the tables in relevant places, Elsevier, the leading publisher, pioneered the movement of allowing authors to submit papers their own way. So in all Elsevier journals, you can do that, and after that, almost all other publishing companies also introduce the same rule. These days, it is an option of authors whether to keep the tables inside the text or after the references. So I would recommend you to keep all tables inside the text so that it is easy for reviewer and editors to match your table with the text content. Otherwise, it is practically difficult. And when it is practically difficult, the psychology of reviewer or psychology of editor will not work in your favor. So a lot of things are also psychological in this world. So if they feel good about your paper, they will recommend. Otherwise, they will not recommend. And so this is some specific suggestions with regard to different type of papers. In an empirical paper, whether you're doing experimental study or structural equation modeling or any kind of empirical paper, you need to have hypotheses. And if you have a qualitative papers, sometimes researchers go and conduct interviews and record those interviews and report that interviews in inverted comma and write qualitative papers. Even many PhD theses are also based on qualitative papers. I myself have recommended PhD to be awarded to some of the Australian universities for researchers who have done purely qualitative papers, or purely 100% qualitative PhD thesis. So just based on interviews and reproduce that inverted comma and that kind of things. In qualitative paper, in order to bring rigor, you need to include RQs. Because otherwise, you need to include RQs and you need to include at least 6 tables in qualitative papers, because the analytical dimension of qualitative paper comes in the form of tables, figures, and research questions. In an empirical paper, even if you don't have RQs, it is okay because you have hypotheses. But you don't have hypotheses in a qualitative paper. Therefore, you must have research questions in a qualitative paper. And you also need to develop and derive tables based on the findings of your qualitative studies and include those tables in qualitative paper. Otherwise, if everything looks like only interview quotations in qualitative paper, it will not look like a rigorous paper. So you need to have maximum tables and figures even in a qualitative paper. You need to learn the art of developing tables in a qualitative paper. For example, you can develop a table based on your literature review, findings from your literature review, produce in a table. Another table can be findings from interview, and another table can be, is there any generalization from your qualitative study? That can be another table, and another table can be directions for future research based on qualitative study. So likewise, you need to be able to develop some minimum 4 or 5 tables, and also include some pictures in qualitative study. If you are doing qualitative study, pictures are very important. Visual dimension is very important, because otherwise many journals will reject qualitative study simply saying that it doesn't look rigorous. So in an empirical study, pictures are desirable, pictures are optional. Again, I would recommend to have 1 or 2 pictures even in an empirical study, because visual dimension will help you, because many times many editors or reviewers go by those photos. It's like, suppose if you go to a new place like Japanese. I don't know whether you've seen Japanese. I lived in Japan for 3 years, and Japanese are masters in camera. They developed all the cameras like Canon, Sony, and all. And wherever they travel, they go with the camera, and they take pictures. They are masters in taking pictures. So why they do is that, and the reason what they would say is that my friend Masamichi Sugie-san from Japan told me, when I asked him why Japanese are known for camera and cameraman, all Japanese are cameramen. I asked him, then he said that, we have an idea and we have an intention to take beautiful things in the world and learn the best from the West, and unlearn the West and implement the best back in Japan. So cameras, otherwise you forget. If you don't take a picture of wherever you go, something you see beautiful, something you see Linda, if you don't take picture, then you forget about it, right? So that way, suppose even in a research paper, I have seen some researchers including 1 or 2 pictures relevant to your research. So that will help you to impress the editor or reviewer who looks at it. Because overall, when they look at it, suppose if you have a write-up, let's say you have this one, even you look at this one or this one, this is nicely designed with all this design. If it was without this design, it will not look nice. You cannot impress whoever is looking at this. Same way, if this design, this one, without this picture, suppose if it was designed without these pictures, people will not even pay attention, right? Since all these pictures are included, people will look at who are these people, right? The same way, so if you include 1 or 2 pictures, that will help you to create a better impression. But it has to be relevant pictures in all type of papers. And the third category is conceptual paper. Conceptual paper, all these are explained in this article. It's actually here it is not done with 100% perfection, but in this article it is done with 100% perfection. So that way, this article is much better, and it has a lot of reasons. It has also, I can go on to this. So maybe I would now take up this and try to give you a little bit more based on this. Reasons for rejections. So here in this article there is a section titled Reasons for Rejection. Reasons for rejections, if you look at it, number 1, 2, 3, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4. 2.1, the reason for rejection is lack of originality and lack of uniqueness. That is the reason of rejection. And number 2 is reason for rejection, lack of scholarly presentation. Lack of scholarly presentation, because article need to be written in a scholarly way. Suppose if you write your research article like a newspaper article, that is not considered as scholarly way. So that is also reason for rejection. And reason number 3, reason for rejection, insufficient impact. Insufficient impact, insufficient likely impact, because when we write a paper, when a journal is publishing your paper, if the paper is not likely to be downloaded by some people, that will not create impact. So insufficient, suppose for example, your topic should not be too narrow. some people work on topics which I have never heard about. Have you seen some research papers on some topics which you have never heard about? I mean, your topic may be heard about, but they go to very, very, very minute aspect of the topic. So that is not a good idea. That will not, nobody will download the paper if you publish a paper like that. So you need to have minimum broadness for your topic. So it need not be too broad like sky. Sky is too broad. Sky, you know. Sky is too broad. So it should not be broad like sky, but it should not be too narrow. So that is important. So insufficient impact is a reason for rejection. And the next reason for rejection mentioned in the article is flawed design, flaw in design, F-L-A-W. This flaw is different from the previous flaw I talked about. Previous flaw spelling is F-L-O-W. This flaw is F-L-A-W. So flaw in design, I mean design, you have a methodological design problem, I mean, you know, it's a flawed design. Flawed design is a reason for rejection. And methodological problems is also reason for rejection. And another reason for rejection can be unsupported results. Suppose you have 5 hypotheses, ideally your result should support at least 3 hypotheses. If your results are not supporting 3 out of your 5 hypotheses, or if results are not supporting majority of your hypotheses, that is also reason for rejection. So your result should support maximum hypothesis if you have an empirical paper. And the next one is lack of flow or language quality problem in your paper. This is also a reason for rejection of many papers. And so a replete research topic or repeat research is also another reason for rejection. And scope and audience of the journal. You have to also look at, that is the reason I told you to look at the reference list, and if you have one reference, that shows that your journal is a match. Otherwise also it is possible for you to find a matching journal. So it's like I have a US passport, I can say that one of the very well-known person from the US, he found a match in Slovenia, you know. So what I'm trying to say is that is not based on the reference list, because if you look at the match in reference list, an American need not come to Slovenia to find a match, you know. And what I'm trying to say is that I'm trying to joke now, you know. So here the point is that usually you find matching journal based on your reference list, but occasionally you can also submit to a journal even if reference is not there in the reference list. The only thing is that you have to be smart and diplomatic, like the American who found match in Slovenia, you know. So it's possible that way also. So it is out of the box, but it is possible. So the next reason for rejection, high volume of submissions in journals is also reason for rejection. And another reason is stringent standard for publication is also rejection, because journal editors are also supposed to ensure quality. They are also supposed to spend some time to look at the manuscript to see that everything is perfect in the manuscript. So sometimes when they are flooded with manuscript submissions, some of them do not have enough time to spend on each and every submitted manuscript. That itself can also be a reason for rejection. And now I will try to finish this and then goes on to the article after that. I talked about conceptual paper. In conceptual paper, you are aiming for a new conceptual framework or conceptual model development. So in that case, you can also increase the rigor of your conceptual paper based on propositions. Propositions can be derived like proposition 1, P1, proposition 2, P2, proposition 3, P3, proposition 4, P4. Likewise, you can derive some propositions in a conceptual paper. So it will help you to increase the rigor in a conceptual paper if you can do it that way. And the next point is how to write the discussion section, the art of writing the discussion section. So when you write the discussion section, you can also try to corroborate and contrast your findings with the findings of prior studies in the discussion section. If there are similar prior studies, if there are no prior studies which are similar, you don't have necessarily include, you don't have necessarily compare and contrast your findings with the findings of those previous studies. So now, I would like to, I have very specific, I mentioned 18 do's here, but in the articles I increased that into 26 do's. So, and I mentioned in the article I have 26 do's and I have 16 don'ts. So, this is an article that I would like to recommend in case if you are going to write an experimental study. This is published by American professors Stoner, Felix, and Blank. They are all working in the US. This is in our journal, which is titled Best Practice for Implementing Experimental Research Methods. So if you're writing an experimental database paper, this article will help you to have a better understanding about experimental methods. So this is an article I published along with Mustaba Barari, who is in Australia, on meta-analysis and traditional reviews. Suppose if you are venturing into meta-analysis or systematic reviews, this is a guiding article. This is in psychology and marketing, and I would also like to recommend an article by James Crick on qualitative research in marketing. What can academics do better? So this is a very good article for people who are interested in publishing qualitative research. Yeah, and I have these do's to before I go into. And you have any question? This is another article on CBSEM and PLSSEM for research in social sciences and technology. This is by Ganesh Das and myself in technological forecasting and social change. These are methodological articles, so it's time for your questions. And if you don't have questions, I can read all these do's. But if you have questions, I would prefer to answer those questions.